Hey guys, I've been thinking, what's Tommy Clufetos been up to? He's been the drummer behind some of the most iconic names in rock, from Ted Nugent and Rob Zombie to Ozzy and Black Sabbath. Let's check in with him.
Oh, what's up, brother? How are you, man?
Oh, man, I'm so close. I didn't plan on that. What the hell? I don't look good close.
Oh, man. Dude, I have, like, studio lighting, so I should have...
Oh, no, I have basement lighting. How are you, Ben?
I'm doing great, brother. How about you?
Am I doing this right? Should I be wearing the headphones and the whole thing?
Dude, you're doing it exactly like I'm doing.
Okay, you got the cheap ones just like me. You don't have the brand new earbuds. I'm too cheap.
These are like from 3 iPhones ago, bro. They just
I don't even like buying these because they're like $20. I'm like, what a waste. How are you?
I'm doing great, brother. How was the move?
Oh, great. Finally to get in a house. Awesome. I mean, stressful, but what are you going to do? Life is stressful.
Dude, can we say where you moved to?
Yeah, I moved to Tennessee. I'm here in beautiful Brentwood, they call it.
There you go.
I'm the poorest guy on the block, I can assure you that.
Dude, it's so messed up because it's like that part of town, dude, Brentwood, Franklin, and even further south into Spring Hill, it's like all of the wealthy people all just settled.
And that's what they usually do. Trust me, I'm not one of them. I just wanted the schools for my daughter.
See, I didn't even know you had kids, man.
Yeah, I have a 5-year-old, well, soon-to-be 5-year-old daughter named June Grace Clufetos, who's just the coolest thing ever, and I love being a dad. I thought I loved drums. I thought I loved music. I thought it was all awesome, but it's far down the line to being a dad and a husband and all that kind of stuff. Not that I don't love music, but there's just so much more important things that I found out through being a father. So,
bro, dude, I just went to my oldest son's kindergarten graduation, and my wife was like getting teary. I was like, babe, it's gonna be fine, dude. They showed like the class of 2034, and I'm going, like,
it's pretty wild, man. It is wild, and I'm tired, and I'm. It's just another level, man. But it's all good. It's as it should be,
Dude, absolutely, brother. Well, I mean, so we've actually met once before.
Where did we meet?
So we met at NAMM, and it's a funny story because like I've told it like 2 or 3 times. I walk up and I say, "Hey, Tommy, brother, I'm such a huge fan. You're one of my favorite."
Were you? Did you have postcards?
No, good Lord, no.
Okay. Well, there was a nice young black man that introduced. I remember meeting something. This is like 3-4 years ago. I went to a NAMM. I hadn't been in 15 years. So when was this that I met you?
This would have been 3 years ago. This would have been 2019. Yeah.
Okay, that was
I didn't have any postcards, unfortunately.
But it was a nice young, dark-skinned man he was speaking to me, and that stands out because there was no nice white people there, as I remember. Whoops, I lost you. See, I'm already kicked off for being politically incorrect.
Dude, you can say whatever you want. So
I will.
So when I walked out, I said, brother Tommy, I've been a fan of yours for so long, man. You're one of my favorite metal drummers. And you said, metal? I play rock and roll.
Well, there you go. That's the truth. Well, people always think that metal to me is just, I'm going to say it again, it's so white, usually. Mm-hmm. And I grew up in Detroit, and Detroit rock is kind of a thing unto itself, which I didn't learn until previous to this, I've lived in Los Angeles for close to 20 years. When I moved to LA, I just realized how important it was where I grew up and the music that I was weaned on and stuff like that. And Detroit rock is just souped up black music. All those guys, Iggy and the Stooges, the MC5, Bob Seger, Alice Cooper, SRC, the Rationals, Motown. It was all these white guys consuming this black music, and white guys just make things a little faster and, rock and roll. But in a cool way, you know what I mean? But metal I just don't identify with it that much. You know, I play a lot of the times I play double bass drums and I have tattoos and I have long hair, but I'm not coming from the place of heavy metal. I'm coming from a different place, and I think if you play with me, especially, you'll feel that different than a metal drummer.
Mm-hmm. Well, and you know, it's interesting you bring up like that, because honestly, up until you just saying that, I never realized that, like, how unique Detroit rock is. Because it had no choice but to kind of evolve out of this other insanely funky, rich history.
I mean, it's really, it's one of the homes of rock and roll, if not the. To me, it's way more rock and roll than New York. It's way more rock and roll than California. Mm-hmm. It's about as rock to the bone as you can get. You know, with the Motown and the blues and all the blue, you know, all the black people moved there from the South when the jobs came up, and that's why all that music happened there in the 50s, and then in the 60s, the explosion of the rock, you know, and there was all these bands and all these things going on in the 60s and 70s, and I was a part of the tail end. You know, when I started playing, I was so young, and I was playing with people who were 55 then. So they were in that scene in the 60s and 70s, and I was latched on to a part of that and was brought up in a different scene than my peers and doing things different than my peers. So I play different than my peers because I play with older people who were better than me all the time.
Well, and you know, you bring up kind of playing with like older cats. I did the same thing when I was from the age of like 12, 13. I was playing with guys in their 40s and 50s. And like, so like, you know, not unlike Detroit, Tulsa, where I'm from, Oklahoma. I mean,
Tulsa, that's heavy blues and roots music. And
oh yeah.
Do you know the drummer? Do you know the drummer Dave Teagarden?
Of course,
yeah. Teagarden Van Winkle. They played with Bob Seger.
Yeah. And he was in the Silver Bullet Band.
Yeah. Was the drummer Jamie Oldacre from Tulsa? Yeah, he's a great drummer.
Yes. Yeah. So I never had the pleasure to get to meet Jamie, although he
he passed away, right? Yeah.
Oh, I didn't hear that. Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, wow. So I knew several guys that did know Jamie, and of course he was a legend because he played with Clapton. Clapton used to live in Tulsa back in the cut too. But you know, the thing that was so rich about Tulsa for me coming up was the Gap Band. Yeah. You know, drop a bomb, brakum, brakum,
sure. And you would hear that many a time on the break from the bar set back in the day.
Absolutely.
It was 25 years after it was popular, but that stuff was still going on. That was hip stuff to dance to in Michigan.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And the wild thing is that recently Dave Grohl came out and said that like that was the influence for his Smells Like Teen Spirit fill.
Yeah, I mean, it's all from when we're kids, man. I listened to the same shit as when I was a kid. So the stuff that when you're really young and hungry and you're a sponge and you can't get away from it. You know, to me, I can listen to the same music over and over and over and over, which I do, but I always find something new. You always can hear something new. You know, you'll go in a different stereo and then you'll hear some like high end better and you go, wow, I didn't know the hi-hat did that. And it'll just take you that next level to that song or you'll hear it in that song and maybe you'll try to rip it off sometime because it'll relate to something. So you don't have to buy that many records. You can buy 20 records and be set for life, really.
No, it's true. And like it's so wild to me that like vinyl is making such a massive comeback. And I have, you know, audiophile friends that still swear they're like, no, dude, like when they digitize.
Are people actually watching this?
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
And yeah. So they're watching it, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this up for like a few days, and then I'm going to edit it and put it up on YouTube, and it's there forever.
Oh great! Oh boy, I better watch my mouth.
Too late, dude. No, well, so that brings me to my point. So you grew up in Detroit, you were gigging from an early age. Bring me to Nugent. Like, how did that happen?
Bring you to Nugent. I was playing in Detroit. My dad had a band, and he started me in his band when I was 11. I hate to talk when I was a kid, but But the early experience has been a key to my semi-survival in this fucking nutcase business.
Yeah.
But having the experience is what is very key. Sorry, you're leaned up against a ketchup bottle here. I don't have any of this fancy stands or anything like that. But having experience, and I only bring it up because I'm going to be the old guy. I'm going to be the crotchety guy. I see all these drummers with the YouTube and the Instagram, and they're playing these 20-second clips, and that's what they're after, which is all cool. It's all cool to get attention, and it's all cool, I guess. But what's really cool is slugging it out and the rewards that you get for that. So I had all this experience, and by the time I was playing in my dad's group, he had a full-time job, and he would play 5 nights a week, 6 nights a week for me. He did it when I was a kid. He would do 300 nights a year and get up and go to work. But when I started playing, he would take more gigs to give me experience, and I'd play 5 sets a night, 5 nights a week at 11 and 12 years old till the time I was 17 and 18 years old. And that's a lot of drumming. That's a lot of learning how to count off songs. That's a lot of learning your stamina. That's a lot of practicing your tempos. That's a lot of practicing shuffle, straight, 12/8, all the basic shit. Working on your fills, all these simple things, learning how to read a band, learning how to bring sections in and out and build it in dynamics, and when to go to the ride cymbal, and when to bring it up and when to bring it down, and when to learn to play softly but intensely when you're playing at a wedding, and all these things that were over and over and over and over. I had 10 years before most guys even do their first gig. So by that time, got this gig with this guy, Mitch Ryder and the Detroit Wheels, who was a band out of Detroit. They were the first rock band really out of Detroit. They had a hit song in the 60s called Devil with a Blue Dress On and Jenny for a Ride, and all these classic tunes that your parents would listen to. So I started playing with them, and we go do Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, fly in a plane and do all these kind of like gigs. And I played for him with a couple years, and everything was always connected. Previous to that, I had done a private party with my dad, and this sax guy, God rest his soul, Alto Reed, who played for Bob Seger, was at that gig. And he liked how I played drums, so he started hiring me to play drums for him once in a while. And then he was doing a movie soundtrack for the actor Jeff Daniels, the other guy in Dumb and Dumber, who's from Michigan also, and he asked me to play drums on a tune for him for the movie, and Ted Nugent was doing the song also. So that was the first time that I played with Nugent in ever, and I just knew that this is my chance to kind of get out of this little more local. Well, even though I was playing for Mitch Ryder, it was the next step for me, a big step, and I knew I had to go there. You get certain chances in your musical life, family life, whether it's with a girl, you better make the right impression. You better it's now or never. This was one of the now or nevers, and I go, I gotta, this is it. So I went in the studio, and we just sat. It was just 3 of us. Here's how the song goes, okay? And I had the experience to be prepared for that moment. I knew how to do things quickly and kind of just learn how to be quiet and watch and listen and compute in my head, and I was ready. And he liked it. And when I got home, this was like dial-up internet days, I gave him a little business card, which was the last business card I ever had. And he emailed me, learn these 25 songs because they'd be good for you. And if the dream ever should arrive, I remember the email. It was to my old email, tclufetos@yahoo.com. And he sent me like these 25 songs. And this was before like YouTube and computers. I ran right to the record store. It was called Harmony House Records. And I spent like $120 of my own money, which back then was a big deal to me. Oh, fuck, I got to buy all these CDs. You had to buy like 20 CDs to get each song from each one. Got them all, started learning. He just said, just learn these songs just in case. He didn't really say anything, but to me, well, that's something's up.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I started learning, and then he said, here's 10 more, and here's 10 more. Learned them all, like 40 tunes. And then he called me to go to his house, and I knew all the songs, and it was just me and him in his barn. No microphone, just no bass, no chords. We're just jamming, and I got the gig out of that. So it's just we're all going to get some kind of opportunity. We're all going to get that. It's just inevitable. It may be the smallest one, but something God gives you, or whoever gives you, whoever you believe in, is giving you an opportunity to pass or fail. And that's why I really, when people ask if you're a drummer and you have done something half-assed, anything, you're going to get some kid who's going to go, well, man, how do I do it? And tell me. And first of all, I've never asked those questions. And here's the reason why. I never had to ask. I knew there was no secret. I knew you had to be ready. If you're asking, how do you do it? Well, you work your ass off. That should be apparent. That's one point. Next point is, what was I talking about? Experience. The experience. You have to have the experience to be ready. So when you're doing all this YouTube stuff and all these kind of things, what's your main goal? What's your main goal as a drummer? I wanted to play in bands. I wanted to play with fellow musicians. And when I went and saw a concert when I was a little kid at the amphitheater or the arena, I go, that's going to be me. If that idiot can do it, why can't this idiot do it? And it was that simple to me. I go, why can't I play in the biggest bands? I want to be in the biggest bands for the most people and playing rock and roll music to the best of my capabilities, even past that. That's what I've always wanted. That's what I wanted. So the YouTube thing and the Instagram thing where I see these guys got their cameras all over them, and there's nothing wrong if that's your goal. And they're filming and they do these 30-second, solos, and they're mind-boggling. I can't even find the one. But it's ripping, awesome. But all that time that I was learning how to do a gig and all these things that are understated things that nobody's even going to really, a teacher can't explain these things. Even I can't explain it. I know exactly what it is, but until you do it, you don't get it. And you have to put the work in and load your gear and know how to be prepared and lug your gig in the snow, and somebody's got to not pay you and you got to know how to deal with that. There's just so many things that YouTube and Instagram won't teach you. So I'm not against it, but I don't think it's going to give you all the rewards of actually playing with other musicians, if that's what you choose to do. If you want to play by yourself and do drum clinics and wow drummers, cool. But I wanted to get a hot wife and buy a house in Brentwood, Tennessee.
Dude.
Oh, here's the point I was trying to make. Sorry to interrupt you.
No.
When people ask advice, what they really want you to tell them is what you're doing is great. You're at NAMM and you're networking and you're going out and you're passing out your cards, and they don't want to hear what I have to say because it's tough to hear. That it's all, because I'll be honest, it's all bullshit. All that other stuff is just all bullshit to me. It's all bullshit. Did you get a gig? Did you do good? Did you get rehired? Did somebody else see you? And did you go to the next level because you were good? Because hanging out never got me a gig. Ever. The only gigs I've ever got is when somebody saw me playing on stage and they said, I want that guy behind me.
Right, yeah. Well, and, it's interesting because it's like I wasn't gigging with a family band, but I was but just not my family. I was playing with a Caribbean steel drum band from the age of 12 on to like 20.
Okay.
So I was learning reggae and soca and calypso with a steel drum band.
What the hell is soca?
I mean, so calypso, boom, ga boom, ga boom, ga boom, ga. It's just boom, boom, ga boom, boom, ga. It's like, it just, you know, they just get going with it. It's funky, dude. But so I was doing that. Then around the age of 14, I was gigging top 40, Cameo, Gap Band, Earth, Wind and Fire. So by the time I got to 18, 19, playing in clubs was like kind of old hat. So like I'm with you on that. And when I try to explain to people now about like gigging and stuff, and they're like, well, I want to tour. I'm like, and I realize after I ask a few basic questions, they have not really gigged like at all, let alone played, you know, a coffee shop for an espresso and tips, or, you know, it's just well, I did it. I mean, it's like people just don't do it now. Like they don't go out there. They're like, it's got to be a Prevost bus or I'm out, you know. And I'm like, I mean, I remember touring in a freaking stinky RV for $1,000 a month, and like barbecue chips and spaghetti. You know what I mean? Like, and I was stoked to be gone. I spent like $3,000 on the drum kit and cases and stuff just to be making peanuts. But I was seeing the country at, you know, 18, 19 years old, and I wouldn't trade those memories for anything.
Well, it's called experience. It's called paying your dues. It's called going for it. It's called giving it your all. It's called it's going to happen when everybody tells you it's not going to happen. Because when I was younger, everybody told me, oh, you can't play that way. Oh, you're hitting too hard. Oh, don't, you know, you should hit the cymbals like this, like a swoosh. And I'm like, what? What? Whenever I see something, it seems like I don't agree. And the world will make you think you're crazy because everybody, especially local, will try to mislead you from what good is because they don't know what good is. Most people don't really know what talent is or great is because they are medium. When you're in the middle, you don't get bothered. When you're great, you get bothered. All the greats, every one of them, from Louis Armstrong, Chuck Berry, Little Richard, they all get knocked. Oh, they're too much showman. Or they're too this. Oh, they're too smiley. Oh, they're this. They're not soulful. Bullshit. It's because they're great and they'll live on no matter. When you suck, oh, you suck. This guy sucks. But when you're in the middle, you don't threaten anybody. So so all those guys coming up, don't listen to them. If you believe in yourself, don't let you steer you. If you're the YouTube guy, that's what you want, then make me eat my words. You know what I mean? But for what I do, my way worked for me. So that whenever I say anything, it's what worked for me. I don't want to give anybody advice anymore. First of all, they don't want it. And if they're asking, there's a problem. The guys who are going to do it, you're compelled. There's no stopping you. It's no matter what. And just because you get one gig doesn't mean you're golden. The more you go, the harder this shit gets. It just gets more difficult.
Well, and, you know, it's interesting because you talked about, like, you know, the gigging and maintaining and knowing when to shut up and just...
First of all, you should always shut up, which I'm having a harder time doing as I get older. But I should take my own advice. But
did you find that when you had your daughter, like, your ability to keep quiet on stuff that annoyed you, like, dropped by, like, half?
I don't know. When you're working for great people, here's the thing. When people are great and it's a well-oiled machine and everybody knows their gig, nothing has to be said. Nothing has to be said. If you're good, nobody's really even has to tell you what to play. It just happens. But when it's not good, that's when everybody starts talking and, well, we should do this and maybe we should do this. No, it should basically just happen within a few times and you guys find yourselves. That's really how good musicians operate, whether it's rock and roll or jazz or soca or whatever the hell it is. It should just kind of happen because you all kind of know your bag and you feel each other. Yeah, it's going to take a minute to gel, but you know, when I play for great people, we can just go. We don't have to say anything. But when you start talking and then all the ideas get going around, that's when it's because it's difficult for some people, you know?
Sure. And one of the things that I really respect about what you've done is that you've always seemed to have had a gig. Like from, what I mean by that is like from Nugent on, when you went to another gig, it's because you chose to move and make this move. And like, I just, that's such a rare thing. Not many people get to do that. Usually they're told, oh, your time, like, so in Nashville, and you probably won't hear this, but like the whole, like, we're going to go in another direction. That's a thing that you hear constantly. I'm not sure if it's an LA thing or New York, but Nashville, you hear it all the time.
Well, it may look like that. I've never been fired from a job ever. Well, let me take that back. When I was a young kid, here's a little tidbit. My dad's group would back all these like old rock and roll artists, and I was backing this group, Little Anthony and the Imperials, which had the song "Tears on My Pillow," "Hurt So Bad." What's the other one? Few others. They were great singers, like 5 guys up front. Really great singers. They're in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame now. Very legendary New York, not doo-wop, but they were tied to that kind of scene. I backed them. I remember the gig. It was in Massillon, Ohio, and it was one of like these oldies extravaganza festivals. And we would back everybody, be like 5, 6, 7 acts. Martha Reeves and the Vandellas, Davy Jones, Fabian, Little Anthony and Imperials, and a few others. And you had to like learn all their songs. And everybody would do like 45 minutes, and you'd rehearse the day of the gig. A lot of pressure when you're like 13 years old. And I backed Little Anthony and the Imperials, and I couldn't read music. I would learn everything by ear. I could, like today, if I learned a song ever in my life, I probably always, any gig that I've done, I can just go do the gig now. I don't forget music. And I learned all their original records just like it, but they had all these different arrangements. Anyways, they weren't happy with how I performed. Everybody else was. So the next time we had to back them, they didn't want me to play drums. So I had to watch another drummer who later became friends of mine back them. And then they watched me play, and somehow I ended up backing them again. I think my dad stood up for me. He said, give them one more shot. Send them the tunes, get the charts. Anyways, I backed them again at the Fox Theater in Detroit. And I wasn't going to have a problem twice. Anyways, I backed them. I did so good that they hired me for the next year to be their drummer at 13. And I was touring with them. And I played like for 2 months in a row in Atlantic City as a kid at Merv Griffin's resorts. And they loved me after it. But that's the only time I had a little hiccup like that. But it was a learning lesson. To always know what you're getting yourself into. And that was my own fault. But it's not all roses. And I'll tell you, I have always usually on my own terms, gone from gig to gig. I've never been fired other than that. I wouldn't say it was fired. It was sat on the bench for a moment back then. But I learned my lesson then. You know what I mean? I didn't have that tools at the time. And that was a lesson to me, to always have the necessary tools when you agree to do a job. And that being said, we all can't be right for everything. And the older I get, the more I shy away from, we all need to be able to play certain styles, and we all need to be so well-versed in everything. There's no way you can be really well-versed in everything, because I play rock drums, and that's my specialty. And that's cool. I'm cool with that. I don't need to know how to play the songos and the beat bossa novas, because that's wedding band shit. When you start being that, if you want to be a wedding band guy, go practice your little do. Nothing wrong with that. But when you go to everything and you touch on everything just a little bit, you're just a little bit good at everything. Versus being, I wanted to be a master at something. And I went with my strengths, and that's playing rock and roll. And that's being a high-energy MFer, you know. That's where I go. That's what I play 110%. Can I play other things? Absolutely. I was brought up on other things. But I believe in kind of going with your strengths too. Because all great musicians, you know, it's like you see them and then you see them play something outside the box of what they do and you go, ooh, that kind of sucks. It's like Buddy Rich playing rock. Give me a fucking break. It was fucking horrible. It was horrible, you know, by any standards. Was he one of the world's greatest drummers and technicians? Absolutely. That doesn't mean he was great at everything. You know what I mean? And like when I see these, like they used to have that like that Buddy Rich memorial thing, and you see some rock guy playing jazz, and you're like, oh my God, this is horrible. You know, so it's like we all, and these are the world's greatest drummers, you know, we all can't be the best at everything. But that's okay.
You know, it's like you raise a really good point, because it's like when I was coming up, the whole term like modern drummer was thrown around a lot, and what that meant was you could do like a jazz casual and then go play a Stone Cold Blues gig and then go play a rock thing, and it's weird. When I moved to town, I was kind of under the mindset that that's what I had to be. So like I had, I don't know, 4 cowbells. You know, here's my rock one, here's my freaking, you know, Latin bell, and I had a jam block, and then I realized that, you know, for, gosh, 10 hours in any freaking direction from Nashville, they're all laser focused looking right at this city going, okay, the moment I get enough saved up, the moment my, you know, kid's old enough, the moment I graduate, the moment my girlfriend graduates from nursing school or whatever, they're all coming here. And most of them don't have everything on point. They have like, I'm a rock guy, or I'm an indie drummer, or, you know, I do the singer-songwriter thing. But they all are, I guess they're a lot more specialized than I thought was like acceptable growing up.
And that goes back to listening to people at a medium level, because music teachers and other guys, all they can teach you is, you got to learn your samba. So the local drum instructor will teach you the samba. You better learn to play these big band charts. So they'll give you, you better learn how to do these hits and set up. It's all the reasons because that's the only thing they know how to teach. You can't really teach this stuff. You can teach. If somebody has the gift, you can bring it out, but you can't teach somebody to be great at something if they don't have it. It's unteachable. You can't teach me to play sports good. It ain't going to happen, you know, because I don't have the gift. And I will argue to the death about it. It's not possible. Everybody has a gift at something, and you got to learn to water that gift, for lack of a better term, you know. And it's cool to not. I don't want to be a, you know, every kind of drummer, because it doesn't satisfy my soul of doing what I'm meant to do. I feel cheated when I do things outside of what I really love to do. I don't get the full satisfaction, and I'm not a happy musician, you know.
Well, and one of the questions I had about, just because like you've raised a lot of stuff in your own playing that I was not aware of. Like I didn't know how steeped in like that old timey stuff you were.
Yeah.
How do you think that translated into your pocket and your feel, going from like old school, you know,
First
50s
of all,
and 60s circuit to now?
I think I can play way more styles and way more feels than most. I'm talking even, and nobody would know it because they're only familiar and they lump me in, which is fine to be lumped. I'd rather be lumped into something than not lumped into anything at all. But if you can play with a pocket in rock, see, my uncle was a jazz musician. He lived in New Orleans for 60 years, 55 years. I would go down there every year and play the Jazz Fest. He played Dixieland. He would open the Jazz Fest for like 25 years in a row. And I did it like 6-7 years from the time I was like 12 to 18 with him or something. And I would play traditional, and I got into it playing traditional Dixieland. And I was good, because if you can understand the pocket of something, just like you're talking about that Latin, it's all the same, even though it's totally different. It's where is the pulse? Where's the heart of it? And that's what I think. Drummers can learn beats and all this kind of stuff, but but you can't teach the ears of what's making something tick. That's what I think my specialty is. I know how to get into whether it's a song or a certain group's music or a feel or a groove or of what makes it tick, and how can I do it my way because you can't just copy. Sometimes when you copy and it's outside your box, that doesn't work either. You're just doing a bad clone of, so you kind of got to phonetically do some things but make that soul of it come out. It's like if you're going to play in the Rolling Stones, God bless his soul, Charlie Watts, but nobody can do that. It's not possible. But can you get the heartbeat of what it is and do your own thing? I think it's possible, or it would be possible for me. So when any opportunity ever came up and I felt that, I go, yeah, I can do it. Because even when I was a kid, I would watch these bands. I go, I couldn't do it yet, but I knew I would be able to because I understood what was happening. And you got to be open, and you got to be willing, and you got to be a student of not just the technical. You got to see past that, if that makes sense.
No, absolutely. Well, and one of the reasons why I was first drawn to your playing, this is back in the Nugent days, was I was like, dude, he's just freaking going for it. And like, this was around the time when I was starting to realize like my own style of playing wasn't what I'd been trying to do. Like I dig jazz. It's kind of like going to the zoo. It's like, I like watching the lions. I don't want to go and pet the lion, Well,
no, you can appreciate. That doesn't mean you don't appreciate other music. I don't listen to hard rock music all the time. I listen to the oldie station and the blues station, and here at the country station. But it's all the same to me. Because if you can play that, if you understand the relation of like there's like the two feel in the country where it's heavy, and you understand that, then it mixes itself in. And if you can because there's jazz tunes that have that halftime bop. It's the same as the country. There's a polka, that has the same kind of pulse as like a punk rock song. So it's all, if you understand what's going on underneath, you can play all the styles anyways, no matter if you're playing the correct beat or not. It's understanding the correct pulse and cadence that is more important.
100%. Well, and what I'm loving so much about this interview is I've listened to probably a dozen interviews of yours, and you're saying stuff in this one that I've never heard you say, and I'm stoked on it.
It's because I'm an endless ball of knowledge. Try me tomorrow. There'll just be more gems.
No, but so you transitioned into, I guess, what would be your adult career. You're now late teens. You've joined with Ted Nugent. What happens in your life? I mean, do you immediately move out? Are you still Detroit based? Like what changed?
No, I stayed in Detroit until I was about 25. I didn't leave Detroit until I was playing with Rob Zombie. And before that, I was playing with Alice Cooper. I stayed in Detroit the whole time. I saved my money. And then when I joined Rob Zombie, it was like, I noticed if you stay in Detroit, you become one of these old Detroit local legends. And I, not that there's anything wrong with that, but I didn't want that for myself. I wanted more. And the Rob Zombie gig was LA based, and it made sense. And I was dedicated to Rob Zombie at the time, and it made sense for me to go there, and there was a pull to go there, and it made sense. I just didn't go there like with a suitcase going, oh, I'm going to take over this town and be a rock star. No, that's just dreaming, Right. So there's two sides. You got to dream and you got to go for it, but sometimes maybe think about it a little bit, and work towards it in steps. Don't be afraid of steps. That's the best way. This thing is so long. This journey, I've done so many gigs, and I've gone and practiced so many times and done so many rehearsals, and I've been so many steps where I'm going, when is the next thing what's going to come? When am I going to get a break? And then you're in a gig and you still want another break. It's endless. So you got to be willing to have faith in yourself and know that your talent. My father always told me, it's a lesson, it's a sentence I've heard a million times growing up. Talent will prevail. And that's the only thing you have. If you don't have loaded parents who are bankrolling you to the next level and everybody's giving you a break because you're this kid, and and that's a whole nother story. But if you got to do things on your own, which I had to, and I'm not good at hanging out. I'm not the best networker. So I think anything that I've gotten has been playing the drums to the best of my ability. And so you better be willing to suck it up and keep going when it's tough, because it's more often tough than it's easy. And that goes for me all the time. All the time. It's tough going in that practice room every day and keeping it ready to be ready at any point.
I remember reading in this issue of, I want to say it might have been Drumhead magazine, where you were talking about kind of like just keeping yourself ready. And it was right around the time where you first started playing with the guys from Sabbath. And you were saying, no. So I wake up in the morning and I do this little workout routine. And then I go and run the show. And then I'll take a break and I think you would go eat lunch. And then you would go run the show. Like you were just, it was methodic. You were a freaking unit for this stuff. And like, I've always respected when somebody's able to go like, I understand what needs to be done. So let's just freaking do it. Let's screw with all the subtle tactics. Let's just get down to business. If I want this, this is what has to happen. Yeah. Nothing else can even come into the equation, because that's not I'm going to stay in my lane. I'm going to freaking kill it.
Listen, this is a business, and we're providing a service. We have to remember that. People are paying me, and they were paying me very good money to deal with a stressful situation. And when people pay you money, what do they want to hear? They want to hear yes. That's all they care about. They don't care if your kid's sick. They don't care about this. They don't care that you're sick. They don't care about, well, I didn't have enough time. They don't give a shit. All they want is to not worry and know that it's done, whatever it is. All people care about is themselves. If I hire somebody, all I want to know is that the job is done. I don't give a shit. And that's how the music business is. We all care, and I'm being a little, but not really. That's the truth. No. People will say, oh, no, we love you and we'll this, but they'll say that to see if you hang yourself. So you got to remember that. It's like, what am I doing now? I just moved into this new house. The day after I closed on it, what am I doing? Building my rehearsal studio in my garage. You know why? So I can be ready. Not waiting. No, I worked it into the budget of buying a house, and it costs a fucking ton of money, and I've had to do it at every house. But that's what I want. And that's part of me earning a living. And I've never changed what's got me where I've gotten to. I've never changed the tactic. In fact, I've never changed so much that I literally, this is a weird one, and it's not any doing of mine. I play drums every day to the same 2 speakers that I've had, the same little mini PA system that I've had since I was 13 years old. The same 2 speakers I got that my dad bought for like $200 then. My ears worked with them so good. They're so in tune with my ears that I've got all this fancy equipment, but these 2 shitty speakers, they've never blown. I've blasted them every day for like 30 years, but I've never changed my tactic of what works. I go down and I play my drums, and I slowly work on tunes, or if there's tunes I have to learn, I just over and over. Not over in like I don't know how to describe it. It's like shooting free throws. Like if you're a basketball. When I was a kid, and even to this day, Larry Bird is my favorite athlete of all time. And I'm not into sports, but I like basketball. And something about Larry Bird connected with me. That he had the heart to and I read his biography. It was called Drive, and that's what it's all about. It's about drive. I was born, and it's in my blood. It's in the Clufetos blood to have this drive about going for something. And it may be so far away you don't know what it is, but you're driven. And I was driven since a young boy to just go. And even my wife, she'll go like, you're sick. You're making yourself sick. Like sometimes I'll make myself physically sick because I'm going too hard. But it's the only way I know to go to the next level. And I feel if I don't do that, I'm not doing everything I can. And the reason I have to do that, it's because it's like life or death to you. You're goddamn right it's life or death to me because I don't have a backup plan and I don't have anybody else to save me. It is do or die. It's how my daughter goes to school. It's how I take care of my wife. If I want to move out of California for a better life for my daughter, it's through playing music that everything has been possible for me. And I owe everything to music.
Man, and you know, it's such it's a really uplifting thing to hear you say that, you know, just because it's like it's been so freaking negative over the last 2 years, just dealing with the state of the industry and all that stuff. And it's so nice to still hear like, no, music still has brought me this far, still has brought us out of this, brought us out of California, brought my daughter to this school system. Like because it's for me sometimes, man, I love music, but I hate the industry.
Hey man, nothing is perfect. Yeah. If you go, it's better than digging ditches, and it's better than a lot. A lot of people have to deal with a lot of horrible things in life, you know, and musicians can get spoiled, myself included. Also, a lot of ego comes into play with music because it's something that we love, you know, it's something that I'm emotionally connected to. So it's not just business to me. And I get emotional about it, and I take things personal because it is personal. And that's a conflict of interest, being a musician and being in the music business. So that's, you gotta know when to hold them and know when to fold them. You know, you gotta know when to step back and sometimes take it up the ass once in a while for not a nice way to put it. But you gotta know where that line is. You know, and you also have to know when to stand up for yourself. So you got to be willing, and you got to be willing to say no. I don't believe in that. No, or no problem. And that's a tough. That's a whole nother part of the music business. As much as it's about being a player, it's way more about having a mind for the business and be able to be made for the business because there's so, you know. It's easy. It's really hard for some people to be on the road. It's hard for some people to be in different states of flux and deal with different personalities and the mind games that go on and the pressure and the not knowing. You know, this pandemic for me, it's easier if you're a musician because music life is a pandemic. I've always had to learn how to budget my money. I've always had to learn how to save for a rainy day. I've always had to live like there's a pandemic because that's what I live in. Tour ends, pandemic starts. So you better have some nuts in the tree.
Yeah.
And I saw a lot of those guys in Detroit. They played all these gigs and they did all these cool things and they were the local legends, but they didn't have a pot to piss in. And I didn't want that for myself. I like nice things. Not saying that it's about, you know, money, but it is. You know, I want something to show for all my hard work. I want to live in a nice house. I want to give my family the best. So that comes into play with how you conduct yourself. If you want to be a bozo and live on your mom's couch or sponge off of other people, don't be good at the music business. Be a rebel, be a cool guy, you know, be stupid, be rock and roll being too rock and roll will get you into trouble. Be rock and roll on stage. And when you go off stage, be music business and be smart.
Well, and you know, it's like you bringing that up, man, like in my mind, when I think of rock on stage, business off, I always think of Alice Cooper.
Well, sure. Yeah. all those guys, they're very smart, and that's why they're still doing it. You know, you can't, even the Rolling Stones, I don't think they all still have their noggins on their head. Trust me, this is what I talk, these old local legends, man, their brains are gone. A lot of them are dead. You know, they're dying. They're no health insurance and this, and their brains are fried. They can't even form a sentence anymore. So when you're talking to these guys, they're sharp. They're sharp people who are still in the music business. So anybody who's had a long career, I have the utmost respect for, because to me, that's success. We all have ups and downs. It's easy to have a couple ups and be riding high. And you got to know when you're riding high that it's just a matter of time before you're knocked down again. And when you're down, if you're good, it's just a matter of time before you're back. But the more even keel you are with it all, it's an easier pill to swallow. Because like I was saying about the ego, man, you got to keep your ego in check. You have to have an ego, meaning more so, I call it confidence.
Sure.
But
that's a massive distinction.
You can't let it overtake you. Of course, you got to have ego. You got to go up there and you got to go, I'm going to kill these guys tonight. I'm going to show them. Because like I said, you get those few moments. And when you get one of those moments, you got to turn it on. And you need that ego to go turn it on and not be afraid and not be timid and be able to pile drive the moment. So
absolutely.
It's a balance, man. Life is a balance. And these things that I've learned through music, anybody can learn through sports. You can learn through whatever you love.
And it's fascinating how those ideals and like truths kind of transcend the different situations you find yourself in. Yeah, it could be music. It could also be sports. It could be cooking. It could be, you know, being a public speaker or giving lectures. I mean, I think that's one of the reasons why I'm so fascinated by the human condition, like in all of its forms, is because these people still, through the series of just kind of living their life and experiencing these different things, kind of come more often than not to the same basic realizations about how stuff works.
All the time. Anybody successful, you'll read about them and you go, oh, wow. That's the same shit. It's all the same. It's all the same book, just different people, you know? And it's not how you thrived that tells the story. It's how you got through the hard times that really tells the interesting tricks. And, you know, the secret to life, the secret to this. No, the secret is just plowing and getting up. You get knocked down and getting up and dusting yourself off and going. And I've learned a lot of things like that through my father, through my uncle, through people that I've worked for, that it will just give you reassurance to just keep doing what you're doing.
And so one thing that I wanted to ask you, because you have an insanely rare, unique experience of being the only non-original member of such a massive legacy band that is Black Sabbath. How do you, because you're still a sideman, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
How do you deal, like, I mean, with all of it? Because I mean, that's their money, that's their bus, that's their plane. How do you deal with knowing, okay, I'm going to go in, I've been hired to do a job. There are fans here that wish it was Bill. There are fans here that don't really care because it's Ozzy. You know, it's just like, how do you find your peace through all that?
For me, it's not very difficult. And that comes from experience. I've always replaced somebody. There's always been somebody before me. When I started in my dad's band at 11 years old, the whole band quit because they didn't want to play with an 11-year-old. Kept going. Then I joined this guy, Mitch Ryder, like I said. His drummer was Johnny Bedanjic, who's a famous, you look up drummers of the 70s, this guy was a pioneer to them. I replaced him. That was a big deal at the time. Then I joined Ted Nugent. I replaced Tommy Aldridge. That was every time it was always, who's this kid replacing this guy? This ain't possible. It was always that. So by the time I played with Black Sabbath, I was prepared. I had gone through it 8 times already. This kid can't do that. And I go, watch me. Mm-hmm. And it's confidence, and it's drive, and it's being ready, and it's doing your homework, and it's having ego, confidence. Watch me. Same as when I was a kid. If that idiot could do it, why can't this idiot? Nobody's going to tell me, because they have time on their side, that I can't do it. So I was going to go prove, because people want to see you fail. And I had all eyes on me, and I was going to show them. I was going to turn them. That was my goal. Not in a cocky, not in a selfish way. I was going to make that band be so good that people were going to walk out there and go, whoa, what the, not just who the hell was that drummer, but, oh my God, I wanted them to go, I've never seen it like that. That was my goal. I'm not saying that's what it was, but I wanted that. That's what I was going after. I always want to make the band be the best that it could be. That's my answer. And that was my goal. I want to be the best drummer that those guys have ever heard, no matter who I'm playing with. I want them to feel comfortable and go, man, this, we didn't grow up with this guy, but he gets it. He gets it, and we feel comfortable, and he's got our back, because that's what these people want. They want to feel like you're playing sports, like, oh, this guy can play. We're cool. We're going to win with him. We're going to win with him. It's putting together a sports team. We want the guy who's going to help us win, and I wanted to be that guy. But I've always wanted to be that guy. I always wanted to prove people, because everybody told me, you can't do it. You can't do it this way. You can't do it that way. Every gig, I want to be the best. I want to be the best that I can absolutely be.
Well, and one of the things that you made me think of is when you are replacing the previous guy. Yeah. Do you? I mean, obviously, like, you're listening to the board tapes or whatever, or do you just straight up go with like a mindset of, you know what? It kind of feels like it's gone a little too far. So let's. A lot of the
time, it's gone too far. Whenever I've done it, most of the time it's gone too far, because you kind of need to mix what the guys are used to now, and then what you got to know how to bring it back. Kind of, it's like when you change tempos in a song. You don't want to go like slow. If somebody says pick it up, you want to go here to here. You kind of want to go within 3 seconds, so nobody can notice. So you want to do that with how you're styling the music, if that kind of makes sense. Slowly. And then, because it takes, if these guys have been playing things a certain way for a number of years, they may not remember what it feels like to play it the original way. So if you go right to it, they'll go, I'm telling all my secrets, goddammit, I don't like to do that. They'll go, whoa, what was that? And they won't, you'll think you're being slick, but you got to be double slick. If that makes sense. This is all the stuff that YouTube and Instagram won't teach you. And that just comes from doing gigs and playing cover songs and playing this and bar mitzvahs and theaters and clubs and 2 people, 0 people, 2,000, 20,000, 150,000. You know, it's just from anybody who's done it will tell you that it's a process. At some point, you're going to reach your peak. It's like, and then it's all going to go away. It's just that way. And then, and I'm getting older now, so I have to learn how to evolve myself. And I'm already thinking about that. I have to evolve, you know, I have to change how I do things and try to be smart and flip it a little different and maybe be a little more clever in a different ways, you know. I've never been fast, but Larry Bird was never fast. So he made up for it in different ways. And I can't do all these fast, crazy things, but I can do it in a thunderous way that gets your attention. And I can do it in the way I lay it out to you. Like I see these drummers, these gospel drummers, this guy Aaron Spears, who I think is is that his name? Aaron, he's a hefty guy.
Yeah.
And he plays with the colored sticks. Is that him?
Yeah, yeah.
Is that really the guy? Because there's two of them.
So there's Aaron Spears. The other guy that also plays with some like different colored sticks is Eric Moore.
That guy.
Yeah.
That guy. He does the chops thing, but still has the other side to him, where he's still got the beat and knows how to play straight, but then he does the shit, which is like the gospel shit, which I love it, but I can't do that. I wasn't brought up in that. That's not me. That's not how I play. But I know how to get reactions with what I do. So you kind of got to find your voice. As much as you love, it's like if I tried to start doing the gospel shit, it ain't going to work. That guy's the king. Those guys are the kings of it. So why compete? You know what I mean? But they can't do what I do, which is the beautiful thing about it all, you know?
Well, and finding your lane is so freaking important and completely like undervalued in this industry. Like, so you saying like, I can appreciate it. It's not your thing, but what you do is completely different.
Well, it's not my thing because I literally can't do it. You know, when I was younger, you try to think that you can be everything and I can do that but I can't. God didn't give me that side. I don't have it. I don't have the speed. I don't have that finesse. I don't have that. I didn't come up in that style. But those guys can't go on 12 for an hour and 45 minutes either, like I can. You know, and then you got to learn how to play soft. But there's also a thing of learning how to play loud.
Yeah.
Or not just loud, but intense and on the edge that I do, that I know a lot of people, they can go to 9.5 when I know how to go to 15. You know what I mean? There's different things how to get the same answer in your playing, you know?
Well, and that brings me to another question. Have you dealt with any issues? Because you hit, I mean, I hit hard when I play live, not so much in my studio, which is where I'm right now, but like live, I like playing out. You play out. Have you dealt with any like rotator cuff, anything?
Yeah, I used to get it more often when I was younger, but I really stretch. Like I start kind of warming up 2 hours before I play and really stretch and loosen up and I really do that. So, I mean, it's just inevitable that you're going to get some kind of ache and pain, but then maybe you got to back it off. And who knows, you know, I haven't had any real issues yet, but I do take care of myself. And as I'm getting older, like I said, I've started to think, and maybe I've even started to adapt slight changes in how I do things. And that just comes with age and experience, and it is what it is, you know. Not saying that I want to mature. You don't want to mature too much in rock and roll because that defeats the whole purpose. And you got to let the beast out. But you got to think in the long haul too. You can't be stupid. It's like, you know, you like people who party, they like burn themselves out. And then there are these dopey dopes, you know. And it's same with music. You can burn yourself out too. So, you know, I want to do this for a long time, you know, and I've been doing it for a long time. And it ages on your body and your mind, and it weighs on you. So you got to learn how to take care of yourself, and whatever that means for you.
Yeah, you know, and it's I've seen it. People kind of deal with it different ways. Sometimes they change their diet, or they change their setup even. You know, like Vinny in the '70s with freaking Zappa, it was sky high everything, and it was just like this wall, and he was sitting on his knees, and then he got older, the cymbals came down and became flat, and his snare came up. You know, have you had to kind of adapt your setups? Because your setups have always been wild, man.
I don't know if I mean, I change things once in a while. I don't think I've changed things for physical issues ever. I don't think I've ever done that. I think I remember like weather will affect your bones and my joints sometimes. And if I'm cold, you can start to get locked up, and maybe your shoulders are locked up for a few gigs. So maybe you just kind of got to focus, not even change anything sometimes. If you just kind of have it mentally in your mind to watch it, you know, breathe, it's kind of, you just kind of, as stupid as it sounds, it's kind of like a Zen thing. You know, be aware of what's bothering you, be aware of your body. It's like an athlete. It's just like an athlete. If you're a runner, you still got to run, but how am I going to maybe not go on my heels so much and the ball of my foot and push more or something? I don't know. You'll figure it out. Overcome and adapt, you know, is you just got to get it done somehow. But I do take care of myself. And most important thing, if you're young, the music must come first. Whatever that means for you, the music must come first. Or it ain't going to happen, or something is going to be your downfall. That other thing that came before it is going to be your downfall.
You always talk about, the pulse and the feel of songs. You've done gigs where there was no click. You've done gigs where it was heavily loop driven, and then sometimes it might have been just click. Was it difficult at all, kind of ebbing and flowing between different feels?
The only gig I've ever done that a click was Rob Zombie. That's the only gig ever. Every other gig has been full on nothing besides natural instruments. I prefer no click, but doing that gig, I think I was with Rob for 4 or 5 years. It did train me pretty good to play with a click. I don't like it necessarily, but it was what it was.
I mean, did you have any problems, like, kind of adapting to that?
No, not really. I don't like in-ears. I don't like how it makes me feel. It takes me away. I like how my drums sound naturally. I don't like them muffled. I like them ringy, and I like that. It's a horrible thing, but I love it. You know, I want to feel the drums when I'm doing it. I want to hear the ringing. I want it. So those things kind of take me out of it whenever I wear in-ears. And that's the one thing I actually cut my own little record during the pandemic because I was bored. And I insisted on going in the studio and not wearing headphones. None of us wore headphones because whenever the headphones, there's something about being connected to a wire and covering your instrument with the headphones that takes you out. When you're like, if you're rehearsing with a band and you're running in the studio and let's say you're screwing around in between takes, it's great. That's when these little moments tend to happen. But then when you put the headphones on, you have to get back there to be, you know what I mean? You kind of got to you learn how to take yourself there, but I didn't want to learn. I just wanted to go, okay, record now. And then we just played. And it was awesome. It was the best recording thing I've ever done. It was my idea. But there was no clicks, there was no headphones. All the amps were in the room and I just heard the amp, just like I would do in my jam room. But a click is fine, but it's just, you can always, I think, get a more, especially in rock, get a better take if you get a great take without a click than a great take with a click. If you get that magic without it where it's chaos, but this controlled chaos, that click will take you away from going to that chaos factor. And my favorite rock has like, whoa, it's gonna blow up any minute, like any minute. And just before it's the outro, and they just fade it. And you know it was a train wreck. It was just, but that's the best part. And having a click you can't go there, you know? That's the only thing. But if I have to do it, it's no problem. It is what it is. You make the best of it. Have
you had any hearing loss?
I'm sure I have, but what are you going to do, man? What are you going to do? Dude, it's better than doing a bunch of drugs and being a drunk. I love music and I want to do it. This is what I do. Don't listen to me. Unfortunately, I haven't worn hearing protection. I can still hear, but my wife's got to yell at me, and it is what it is. And I'll be one of these old guys with miracle ear, but oh well.
Well, dude, I mean, I know you moved. Who are you playing with now? Are you still with the Daisies, or is that?
No, I'm not playing with anybody right now. I'm looking for a gig. Somebody hire me out there.
There you go.
No, I'm not with that group anymore. Let's just say I wasn't for them. And they weren't for me, and it wasn't the right thing. And and taking a break gave me, I wanted to move here. I had this thing in my head, and when I get something in my head, it's happening. And here I am. It's awesome.
That's well. And so, how long was this move in like the back of your mind? Did 2020 just kind of open it up?
No, this was 6 months ago, I'd say. I went to, I think you're a good friend of him, and I've since become a good friend, Greg Morrow.
Oh yeah,
wonderful drummer.
Yeah,
I was down here doing, wonderful guy, wonderful drummer. I was down here doing a gig, and he invited me to his house. He has a beautiful house, beautiful wife. His wife made us dinner, and I went in his backyard, and I had dinner with him. And he's on this beautiful spread of land because he's played on so many hit records and made such an extreme amount of money. Sitting in his backyard, and I just went, my body went, whew. I felt it. As hippie as that sounds, I felt it. And I go, this is what my family needs. And I got overcome by it. Called my wife, you got to come down here. A few weeks later, we took a trip. For 3 days, we're walking around, we're looking at areas. And then a week later, I put my house for sale. And then we just came down here. I put everything in storage. We stayed at a furnished apartment. And I started looking at houses, and what chaos that was. Oh, my God. Holy shit.
Yeah.
But it all worked out at the end. I'm in a beautiful spot. It's wonderful. I'm very happy with it. And got a beautiful house, a beautiful family. I'm lucky. I got about 2 mortgage payments before we're back on the street. So,
dude, you know that emotion you felt. So my wife and I, we bought an 80-year-old farmhouse just south of Nashville, and dude, I'm a city boy, bro. Like I grew up in Tulsa. Even in living in Nashville, we were in the heart of downtown, you know, and then to move out here, it's like I literally, when you text me, you're like, hey, what are you doing? I was literally putting on like heavy duty mesh on our new chicken coop that I'm building from scratch.
Nice. Oh, don't say that to my wife. She wants a chicken coop. I don't want to deal with it.
Dude, we'll have to have you over. Seriously. We'll dude, it'll be.
No, I'm not coming over because she's going to want one and I ain't doing it. Not gonna happen.
She's gonna meet my wife. She's like, "Have you ever had farm fresh eggs before?"
Oh, man, go to Whole Foods.
There you go. But dude, you know, this has been so much fun for me, man. Because I love your perspective, and it's just you're raw, you're real, and it's like that's the best type of interviews, man.
Hey, I want to thank you for having me on here. It's nice talking music with a nice guy who gets it, and this is just me talking. If it rings true with you, then it rings true. If it doesn't, it's all bullshit. That's the truth of it. So, you know, maybe some kid will hear some truth in it. And if one kid does, then it's cool. But if it doesn't, then don't ever take anybody's advice if it doesn't make sense for you. And one last thing. Parents. Guy, if your kids have a gift, guide them. I was so blessed to have my drive championed. And that is a powerful thing. And when you go against that with kids, not everybody gets that gift. When you go against that, you stifle what kids are yearning for. They're yearning for approval, whether it's music or whatever the hell it is. If it's positive and they're doing the right things, give them that gift. And I hope I listen to my own words because I have a daughter and who knows what she wants to be. You know what I mean? This is a stupid little thing, but just 2 days ago, me and my daughter, for some reason, we started talking about boxing. And then she goes, oh, I'll go, want to see kids boxing? So we're watching kids box. And then we start doing this, just like simple combinations, right, left, or whatever that. See, that was a paradiddle. And we're doing it. And I saw this thing come over her where she zoned in on me and she was focused. And I was like, oh my God, she's like, this is real, awesome, genuine. You know, put it this way. The boxing gloves are ordered, and the pads are ordered, and all the stuff is ordered. That is the secret to being, and that's what I had. And I owe everything. The biggest teacher and the biggest gift giver in my music career was my dad, and he gave me those tools, and now I have those tools to recognize that with my daughter.
Yeah.
There you go. The secret of life.
Dude, that's such a beautiful sentiment. I was literally at my son's game yesterday. He's terrible at baseball.
Right. Way to be supportive, Dad.
No, but the thing is, like, he realized about 3 games in, it's not for him. But I told him,
right,
you started it. I want you to finish it, and
that's good.
Be done. But
right.
but I was just thinking, I was like, man, he's a turd out there, but I can't wait to see the next thing he's into.
Right, and that's an important lesson too with music. A lot of musicians think they want to do music, and they will chase it, until it's a negative thing for them when they're not really supposed to do it. Just because you have a love for something. Like, I liked basketball as a kid, but my dad sat me down one day and he goes, listen, Tommy, I'm not trying to discourage you, but you're not going to be in the NBA. You know, you're not even the best kid on your middle school team. So put the ball down, and nobody's ever better than, you know, and it was a dose of reality for me, you know, that maybe I needed to hear. And that's important too. You know, your son's not good at baseball, so why waste another thing? Unless he totally loves it no matter what. But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
no, yeah. Well, I think that's a good thing for us as well, is not being so hard on ourselves. Like, you know, I might be into this for like just a little bit, and then it kind of subsides, and that's cool. And if I come back to it, great. And if not, that's
music will take you in all these directions. I've been like you were saying, it seems like I've gone from gig to gig, and it was always I've gone out for gigs and I haven't got the gigs. Many a time, not too many, but many a time. And in retrospective, whenever those things didn't work out, it may have been years coming around, but it was always, oh, wow, I'm glad that never happened. I'm really glad that, because that really wasn't who I was. And it's almost like you may try your damnedest, and I've gone out for gigs where I go, wow, there's no way I'm not going to get that. And then it didn't happen. But something inside me goes, it doesn't matter how great. Maybe there's a better guy that's more suited for that, who is more, you know what I mean? Where no matter how much I try to be into it, it's not really who I am. Does that make sense? But but the opportunity is cloaking what's really meant for you. So it's a tricky thing. You got to come to grips with your so-called failures also, you know?
Yeah.
And you got to be very real with yourself. Music teaches you to be ego, but also humble at the same time. I could keep talking about this shit forever. Go do your chicken coop. It's been such a pleasure. Nice talking with you. And let me know when you have another one of these with a real good drummer, and I'll watch and I'll learn something.
Tommy, you're the man. Thank you so much, brother.
Thank you, Ben.
As you can tell from our interview, Tommy doesn't pull any punches. He lets you know how he feels and where he stands. His approach to music and life is to go after what you want and don't let anybody tell you that you can't. I admire Tommy's honesty, his drive, and his ambition to excel on and off the gig. This has been, and I've been thinking.